right here. Now watch this carefully. Watch very carefully what I do. All right, let me just do this. I'm going to say this, look at it as close as you can, this area here, see where I've got that? This, but I'm totally precise, I must be precise, make sure that I'm precise. That area there is the average cost, is my claim, and therefore, since this is the other, I shouldn't say that is the total cost of this firm, but in fact, it is not the total cost of this firm, because I did not draw that. Why? Look at my average cost carefully. Yeah, you just rising up. Who's got an answer here? I realize it's very tight, but look at it carefully. Yes, Laura.
You have the average cost where your average cost is at a minimum, should be your average cost.
It's not at the minimum. Now I'm doing this, the next day, I'm going to get 5 people on the board, I'm going to make you draw this, I'm going to watch you. I'm going to say, look, I told you, 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 and you're still making a mistake. Not to embarrass you, but for somehow to say, wake up. That is not the average cost. That is the average cost, minimum average cost. And by the way, minimum average cost is here. We want the average cost there. Notice, it is above minimum average cost. And you must draw it that way. So there's the total cost. There's the average cost. Here is the total cost. Which means, further, here is the total revenue. Price times quantity. Which means this, notice that above, is the profit. Now my question to you is it an economic profit? Is it zero economic profit? What kind of profit is that? What kind of profit is that? Is that the profit above the fixed cost, the average rate of profit? Is that better than the average rate of profit? Or is that simply some kind of profit? What do you think? Yes?
Well, if the marginal cost includes the fixed cost, which I'm assuming it does, then that's...
No, but it doesn't. The marginal cost doesn't include the fixed cost. What includes the fixed cost? Average cost includes the fixed cost, right? So it turns out, by the way, if we were this down here, I'll get rid of this, but I'll change this. Down here, this amount right here is the total variable cost. That's the cost of all the labor, etc. Right there, as we saw, was the total cost. And right here is what? What is that? Fixed cost. That's the expected profit, everybody. That's the expected profit. Hey, guess what? When you cover your average costs, for the accountant, no, but for us, yes. When you cover average cost, you're covering, you're getting the expected rate of profit. We're already doing that. Say that's 10%. Plus, now we have this other amount. So we're not only getting 10%, we're getting maybe another 12%. Everybody? This is an economic profit. Well, under such circumstances, because everybody else is on average getting 10%. Now, in terms of, by the way, maybe it's odd because I may not have ever said this in this class. What does why is it so important about the average profit? As we're supposed to see, if you're not getting the average profit, you're going to take your capital and move to where you can get more than that, right? You're going to take your money and take it to the best place you can get it, just like you're going to look for the best job you can get. So basically, this firm could get out of this business and go somewhere else where they would get take the average rate of profit, which is 10%, but they're actually making that now, plus another 12, they're making 22%. They're not likely to move, right? So right now they're happy. All right, good. Then, what if I said to you another one? What if I said price equals minimum average cost? Could you tell me where the demand function intersects supply? If at equilibrium, price equals average cost. Yeah.
Average cost equals the marginal cost?
Exactly, yeah. Or, yeah, exactly, because what has to happen is if price equals average cost, first of all, it must be the firm is producing when price equals marginal cost. That always happens. Every firm maximizes profit at price equals marginal cost. So if they're getting, if they're producing an average cost, since they must be producing a marginal cost, they also must be producing a marginal cost equals average cost. That's minimum average cost. So to say that price equals average cost means the firm is producing here. Profit demand would have to change in this case. Fall, say, to this point right here. Like that. All right, what is the economic profit here? What's the economic profit here? Yeah, go ahead. What's your name, sir? Alexander, yeah.
Zero.
Zero, everybody. Zero economic profit. Okay. The firm is making the average rate of profit. They're not making more, they're not making less. So they're not likely to move. For them to move, they're not likely to make more than that. It's possible. They're not likely, so they'll probably stay, okay? Now, next. We said to it, I'm being a little disingenuous here. I haven't got to the next step. All right, now you guys have to think. Watch what happens now. Price is less than minimum average cost. But on the other hand, I'm sorry, I should say this. Price is less than minimum average cost. It's greater than price. Right? But price is greater than minimum average variable cost. Let's find that place. All right, what do you think? Would this be, where am I here? What about way down here? Do you think this would do? Wait a minute, I'm going to make this a little bit longer. Would this satisfy that, everybody? At a, say, demand intersected down here. Would this be greater than minimum average variable cost right here? No, so it's not. So when I give you that information, and also, so it's got to be between, basically, somewhere, got to be no lower, not as low as this, and not as high as this. So there's an intersection somewhere in the middle there. Let's find it. All right. That being the case, I got a little higher. Now it could be anywhere in there, right? Okay, good. So then, how do I find my output? My output is where marginal cost equals price. Everybody, that's your first move right there. That's maximum. Okay, now, next. Let's figure out where the firm is making economic profit or economic loss. Everybody? Huh? Okay? So, I would say the economic profit was like this. The economic, whatever it is. But let's just leave it fool around and do that. What we do is, at this output, I want to know the average cost of this output. And it is right there, right? Now notice everybody, if we're not at the minimum, it's not at the minimum. So when you draw this, you're always aware that you're above the minimum. Make it obvious. I don't want there to be any doubt that this is above the minimum. You can swear to me that you'll do it, but next day you won't. Okay? You're not at the minimum. You're at this. Average cost. The average cost at this output. All right. Then, here's the total average cost right here. Everybody? Here's the total cost to the firm. Here's the total revenue of the firm. The difference between the two is this. And what is that? Is that an economic profit or an economic loss? It's a loss, so we put in economic loss. Now you're going to be happy to know that in this exam next day you're going to be doing like this for like 5 marks right off the bat. This is an economic loss. All right. Now, how do I know it's an economic loss? Okay, now remember this is a short line. The firm is making an economic loss, which means it's not making the average rate of profit. But it actually doesn't have the choice about selling the factory and moving on. It only has 2 choices. It's the short run, it's fixed. We can produce or not produce. So we can produce there, or we can shut down completely and produce nothing. So now I want you to tell me, if this firm didn't produce a single unit, what would their economic loss be? If they didn't produce a single unit? Yeah. Their fixed costs, everybody. If this firm doesn't have to produce anything, they can shut down and not produce anything, but they would lose their fixed costs. So we better figure out where the fixed cost is. And it turns out, of course, it is the difference between average variable cost right there, average cost right there, making that accurate. Everybody, this is the fixed cost. This is the fixed cost. Okay, so you've got a choice, folks. You don't need to produce anything, and this is what you lose. Or you can produce, and this is what you lose. What are you going to do? Produce. Now later, when we go to the long run and say we can get out of this business of selling factories, and we might do something, we'll talk about that. But notice, by the way, this firm is not literally losing anything. They're making an operating profit. If this is notice the size of this. If this is a 10% return right here on capital, what kind of a return is this on capital? Okay. Okay, if the blue represents a 10% return, what does the red represent? If the blue represents a 10% return, what does the red represent? 5. This firm is making a 5% return. They're making an economic loss of 5%. And as economists, we want the firm to be aware. Just like we don't want you to be running off and coming back and saying, I've got a wonderful job for $10,000 a year, I'm graduated UT, I graduated summa cum laude, and I'm getting $10,000. Whoopee! We go, my God, are you crazy? You could be making more than $10,000 a year. You're making a loss. Okay, so the firm continues to produce. Now, our final one is this. Supposing price P0 is less than minimum average variable cost. In that case, we'd have an intersection here. We'd have a price, watch carefully. I'm gonna have so much fun after the break, running you guys through that which would seem obvious to you, but of course won't be. Supposing in the marketplace the price falls to this, does the firm produce? If the firm produces, now actually, when we say we get the maximum profit, we mean the minimum loss as well. If the firm produces, they would be producing right here. Everybody? Marginal cost, right there. This would give them that. But let's look at this more closely. This would mean their economic profit, whatever that is, would be right here. This would be their economic loss, which is the difference between the price they're getting right here and the total cost. Everybody, right there. But, notice, their economic loss, or rather the fixed cost, is right here. Right, everybody? It's between average variable cost down there, average variable cost, right there. So there's average variable cost, a little bit up. Here is marginal cost. So notice, that is the fixed cost, difference between average cost and average variable cost at this output Q0. And this is the economic loss, and you can see the economic loss is greater than the fixed cost, right? In this case, the firm shuts down because they can't even cover their labor costs. As you can see, the price isn't enough to cover their labor costs, their variable costs. So supposing you're a restaurant, if you shut down, you lose $100,000, say. If you produce, you lose $100,000 plus, you lose on every single meal you produce. So you shut down, you don't produce anything, right? So that gives us, we're almost ready for a break, that the firm produces, according to marginal cost, basically our rule, P equals MC, determine the supply of the firm, above minimum average cost. So it turns out the supply function of the firm, because at every single price, remember supply is the quantity supplied at a given price, centers, variables, costs, and all that junk. So basically, this firm will supply at a given price its marginal cost like this. This is the supply function of the firm, right there. Just that. Okay? Boom. Let's take a 10-minute break. Right? Then we're going to finish off in style.